This is the Spiritual Tea Report with your host, Hathor Sekma L. And we are back with Nic and Olandria, Real Love or Fake, Part 2. I decided to get into talking about Nic and Olandria because my daughter, she is very much a fan of Love Island. And one of her favorites at the top of the list is Nic Olandria. They are seeming to be a lot of people's favorites. I'm getting a lot of views from part one. So part one covers a great deal about their ages and it's not really about the age difference. It's really about talking about their Saturn's return. So I get into something about the Saturn's return and the pattern that I see within Love Island. Go just watch part one. It's very beneficial if you are following everything that I'm putting out. I usually have very long TikToks because it's a spiritual tea report. So it's long. So, take your time with it because there's a lot of good information. Speaking of information, I want to go back to what I said about Nic and his birthday. I said he was a Pisces, but he's actually a Pisces Aries cusp. So he's on the cusp where he has that water, but he has a bit of that fire because he's at the end of March when it switches over to Aries. So he's in that in between, which can make him be a little bit more mutable at times where he can be a little wishy-washy. So him and his decision making and things like that can be a problem. And then also I'm going to get into how he thinks. He has this dualistic energy. We're about to get into that because in part one, I've already went over the moon energy about how they nurture each other, their emotions and everything. And now I'm going to get into how they think together. And then I'll go into 2025 and 2026. So that is basically the recap with all of this. And we're going to get into more in-depth spiritual analysis if Nic Olandria is real love or is it fake. I had somebody in the comments on part one say that it's real. So definitely go check out part one and let's get into part two. In the thinking department, Alandria is she's a teacher. She thinks like a person who is very well educated. She's the person who can teach you some things, but she's also a student at heart with how she thinks. And then we have Nic, who has the mind of what we would say Aquarius energy. He's dealing with that too, where he believes in thinking in a pair, or but he also likes to think of differences. Like he is naturally a person who would be like, I think I want to deal with somebody who is not the same as me. He thrives in those differences, and there's nothing wrong with that. He really wants to understand that person and, get a different view on life, not just always the same. So when they come together, they come into this union. They come into a great union of structure. Like I said, they look like a working relationship. And there's nothing wrong with it. They know business. And when they come together, it is like almost like a business type of relationship. They are really examining each other and knowing the psyche of each other because how they come in this business type of relationship and this type of structure, they're coming in where they have the mind of business people. They have the mind to be very much together, social, understanding each other's mind, but they need a plan. They need that structure. So it could come off fake with them because they seem so business like. They seem like the perfect picture. But this is how they think. This is how they are coming together. Is that they come in together knowing how to do business. And like I said, Olandria really takes that seat of guiding Nic, and Nic almost reflecting her and knowing how to really take notes from her mentally as well. Now, in the lower energy, they do need space. At times when they do have this space, Nick is off, doing what he needs to do. Nick is in the mind department. He does more than likely need breaks for Olandria to, go into a space of how he wants to do things within his life, how he wants to think. It may be at times very much different than Olandria, where he does in this space, he kind of goes off and does his own thing. With Olandria, how she deals with this space is that she flips as well. So that's why I was talking about, even in the astrology, we see a lot of flip flopping or transitions of you seeing two different type of people. I'm seeing this even in the numbers, in the lower and negative energy, is that these two can actually switch up at times, and that could be coming off as fake, but it's still a natural energy between these two. So as we're going, I'm just checking out things. This is what I do in when I do love and compatibility readings for other people. And of course, you can always ask more questions. You can ask questions in the comment, like, what does that mean? And I can explain even more in depth if you don't really get it. But we're looking at the sun energy of how they think. And this could be a relationship with organization, with a plan, and if they keep it almost like they're in a business type of relationship with each other, then the mental flow between them is pretty good, like almost like telepathic almost, with these two, where they can read each other's mind, or the facial expressions that sometimes you will see them do. If they have a plan, then they're in good flow. But if they're not, then they need this separation to go to their separate corners and do their own thing. So this year, 2025, we're getting into how they are on Earth, how they are naturally. Um, Alandria is actually in this hermit type of energy, where whoever's going to be in our life, they definitely have to know sometimes she will need her space. She's in the year of 9, which is, we're in a reflective year with the 9, because we're in the year of 9. So she's going to even do a lot more of needing her space sometimes, needing that time to reflect on things. And Nick is in the energy of 3. So when we look at this energy together, and they say that they're very attracted to each other, it's showing up in the numbers that they are definitely attracted to each other. My daughter told me not to tell y'all this, but they can have if they end up having a slip up sexually, because this is high sexual energy between the two. The positive energy is they are very much really feeling each other. This is real. This is even reading the numbers that they are really having this high energy. That's between the two in 2025. This is a highly energetic type of time for them. And when you look at something that's highly energetic, they can love as much as quarrel or fight with each other. And this can also lead into a baby. So if she's not taking any precautions, or he's not, they could easily end up having a child together because of all this passion that's going on with each other. And the negative, they can cause each other psychological issues. They can definitely really cause problems in the psychological department, where it's a lot of energy, where if they're together too much and they don't give if Olandria especially doesn't get her time away from Nick, it could be where they can easily get into a fight. So the beautiful thing about all of this is that I do see Olandria is not always up underneath Nick. I know y'all were saying that Shelly and Ace kind of stay up underneath each other or something like that. But these two, if they give space, then they can come back, be full of passion, but then go to their separate corners. So nothing happens like them having a baby or a fight or anything like that. But just looking at the energy, and then they're both people that like to direct the show. Looking at their faces, they're both receivers, so they could be in conflict with each other. Nick is more of like the thanker type of person. He's going to thank, and then he goes into being a loving type of person. He wants to be in that love. But Olandria is more of the aggressor. She's more of the person who has the spark within her. But looking at them, they do match up pretty well, visually. When I'm looking at them, they match up pretty great. And I'm glad that Nic has those ears where he's Mr. Fix It. He wants to listen to you and he wants to make things right, or he wants to fix things. So that's on their side when they could go into this energy of passion, and passion goes to too much passion, to we're causing each other too much psychological things happening. So it's good that they do have their time apart. Let's get into 2026. So as I mentioned, the year is always changing. So in 2026, Olandria goes into the year of one, where she's going to be very much focused on herself and her identity. She probably will be even looking at her career and where it's all going, because again, she's 27. Next year she'll be 28. She's still going to be in her sadness return. And as she's in her sadness return, she's going to be really faced with a lot of questions of, what did she do in her 20s? What do you want to do as you go into this, further go into what we would call your true adulthood? So she's going to be a lot more focused on herself in the year of 2026. Nic comes out of the year of three. Year three can be very much up and down, good and bad for you. It's almost like a roller coaster energy. He comes out of that in 2026 and he's in the year of four, so he'll be more grounded. He will show that he has more of a grounding energy. And he's going to want to take a hold of his life, and really have business. If he wants to start a business, if he wants to get into something new, go back to school, this would be the time for him to do it and really feel like there's a foundation with it. So when we're looking at them coming together, this relationship in the higher energy of the year will need a lot of communication. The communication, the creativity, they can really come together and be very creative, with Nic giving that grounding energy, and Olandria kind of like taking the reins because she's already in standing on who she is. You will probably see her doing a lot more socially, standing out more, maybe being in commercials or whatever. You've seen them in some commercials, but you're going to see her really standing out, where Nic can give that grounding to the relationship. And then it's just, with them being more creative, Olandria would be more, like I said, more social in the relationship, really getting out there and showing herself in a way. So when Nic is seeing that Olandria is more going into stepping out in the forefront and doing her thing, he may kind of step back and be like he's going to do his own thing as well. They're going to have to deal with a lot of energy between them. The lower part of them is dealing with this energetic energy that, yeah, they are stepping into an arena that they may have not always been in, especially in the relationship. There's a lot of eyes on them. There's a lot of talk. So this relationship, for it to stay together, needs communication, because the energy would make Nic want to go do his own thing. He goes into more of getting into his health and coming a bit more selfish about how he deals. And this would actually flip Olandria to go and do her own thing, and that Gemini flip occurs. So like I said, certain things with relationships have to be in place. That's why I go over love and compatibility with people, is that there are some strengths and weaknesses. And the strengths between them is the business like relationship, them being a brand, and they have love, they have this passion, they have this energy of sexual energy and love on their side of, we really are feeling each other, we like each other, we like to come together sexually, we are loving the brand, we know how to plan ahead of things. But then you also have some duality going on, and then being from these two different worlds. And then you also, by 2026, you have a lot of energy around them where it could go either way. If they don't understand that in their times when they're separated, they need grounding in this high energy that they're coming into, of being in the spotlight. especially Nick, he's going to get more introspective and going in and doing some inner work within the relationship, which can kind of come off as selfish, which would actually, in this lower energy, flip Olandria to go into her Gemini energy, where she is more likely going to, you know, be a bit dualistic towards him, kind of being selfish within trying to figure out how he wants to be, because although he is not in his Saturn's return, he is definitely in a year where he wants to try to get his life in order. So there may be some times where they need to come together and really communicate if they want to continue in the relationship. But overall, that's the word I'm trying to find. I do see this relationship could be a good working relationship and still have passion with it, but the energy will definitely start to change in 2026. And I do see these two as stars. And, I definitely see Olandria having a very bright future in 2026, as far as her being a star to the public. She's already creating that energy. How Nick and her relationship goes, she's going to be a winner regardless. So best of luck for these two. And I do believe this is a form of love. It is a love that they're going to keep growing with over time. Even if they separate, I'm sure Nick and Olandria will have love for each other. So that's all for this analysis of this spiritual tea report. And this is your host, Hathor Sakma L. Stay tuned for more. Peace.